So in episode 2, the Mandalorian along with Baby Yoda are heading back to the Mandalorian ship when they're ambushed by a bunch of other bounty hunters. And the Mandalorian makes pretty quick work of them, but has noticed that everybody is going to kill Baby Yoda, whereas his orders were strictly to keep him alive. He patches himself up that night and they keep heading on to the ship, but when they get to the Mandalorian ship, they notice that a bunch of Jawas have taken it apart for scrap. The Mandalorian starts firing at them and they quickly get into their ship and take off, but the Mandalorian is on hot pursuit. He starts climbing up their ship as it's moving as they throw a bunch of different items down trying to knock him off. But when he finally reaches the top, he's greeted by a bunch of Jawas who shoot at him, freeze him, and knock him off the ship. The Jawas have gotten away, so Baby Yoda and the Mandalorian head to the only other person he knows on the planet, the farmer. And the farmer lets him know that he's shocked that he's still alive, but also he's shocked that all of this fuss is about this little tiny creature. The Mandalorian explains what happened to his ship and is complaining about the fact that there's no real way to get his parts back, to which the farmer says, well, you could trade with them. I'll even take you there. But right out of the gate, the negotiations don't go all that great because the Mandalorian is pretty contentious. At first, they ask for his Beskar armor, which isn't on the table. And next, they ask for Baby Yoda, which is also not on the table. The farmer asks, well, there must be something else you want, and they all start screaming, egg. Because they want the Mandalorian to go get the egg of a rhinoceros-like mudhorn, and that's not easy to do. And when the Mandalorian locates his cave, he heads in there and starts firing off some shots, but he gets thrown out of it pretty quickly. And the Mandalorian is getting absolutely worked by this mudhorn. The mudhorn throws the Mandalorian down and then turns his attention to Baby Yoda, which narrowly escapes getting run over when the Mandalorian changes direction of the pod. The Mandalorian tries fire, but that doesn't work. He also tries wrangling the thing, but he just gets taken for a ride. It gets so bad at one point that the Mandalorian just gets on one knee, kind of accepting defeat with a dagger out, but all of a sudden, as the mudhorn is charging at him, he stops. And when the Mandalorian looks up, the mudhorn is moving his legs, but he's moving them above the ground. And the Mandalorian can't really figure out what's going on until he looks back at Baby Yoda, who is concentrating all of his energy at the mudhorn. And he had tried this the previous night when the Mandalorian was patching up his wounds, but the Mandalorian just figured that he was just being a baby, and he just kept putting him back into his pod. But all of his concentration takes a toll on the Yoda, who ends up passing out. Luckily, though, for the Mandalorian, when the mudhorn drops, he's able to stab it and kill it. He gets up and is looking at this passed out Yoda with absolute amazement at what he just did, but he came there to get an egg, and that's what he does. He barely makes it back to the Jawa ship on time because they were ready to leave, and gives them the egg, and he gets his stuff back. He tells the farmer he's shocked that he stayed, to which the farmer says, I'm shocked it took that long. And as they're heading back to the ship with all the stuff, the farmer asks if the child is still alive, which the Mandalorian says yes, and then he asks if the child is still hurt, which the Mandalorian says, I don't think so. He then wants the story again because it's just such a remarkable story he can't understand it, but the Mandalorian can't understand it himself. They spend a couple days trying to get the ship back together, and just as the Mandalorian's about to take off, he offers the farmer some money from the bounty because he thinks he deserves it, but the farmer says, thanks, but I can't accept that. He then asks the farmer to join his crew, saying that he can pay handsomely, but the farmer says, I've worked enough of my life to not have to work for anybody else. So the Mandalorian takes off in his ship, and as he does so, the child wakes up. Thank you for watching this recap. If you do not see the next one up in the corner right there on the end screen, don't worry, it'll be up shortly. Please consider following the channel. That'd be cool. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, and if you don't, there's a thumbs down button for a reason.